2017 and 2018 were great years to be a LEGO Batman fan. With the release of the LEGO Batman movie, LEGO Batman was taking center stage. Overall, the movie was great. It's quite easily my favorite of the LEGO movies. But without a doubt, the best part about this movie wasn't even in the movie. It was the sets that came from it. It was like a Batman fan's wet dream. So many sets, and most importantly for me, so many characters, especially on the villain side of things. We got so many first-time characters in LEGO, and so many that we would likely never get otherwise. Together, let's take a look back at this wonderful theme and highlight my favorite sets from the LEGO Batman movie. Starting us off are a couple of sets that I don't currently own. When they first came out, I didn't necessarily dislike them, but they didn't really grab me. Over time, however, they've slowly creeped their way up higher on the list. First up is the Justice League Anniversary Party. Compared to the other sets of this theme, it's sort of the odd one out. It's just a party and no Bat family members are included. You could just as easily slap a Justice League logo on the box and nobody would be the wiser. Where this set shines for me is definitely the minifigures. 3 exclusive characters and 1, technically 2 exclusive variants, though just Superman's head is exclusive. El Dorado stands out to me as a more obscure character, but I used to watch Super Friends growing up, so I was glad to see his inclusion. The build I still flip-flop a little bit on. I think it's maybe just the color choices, but it is funny to think that this is the only Fortress of Solitude set we've ever gotten from LEGO. Maybe one day we'll get something more, but the way DC sets are right now, I won't hold my breath. Next is a set I like for almost the exact opposite reasons. Whereas I liked the Anniversary Party for its minifigures the most, the Batcave Break-In is a set for the builds. More specifically, the Batboat and Penguin's duck vehicle. These are both really awesome builds. The duck vehicle is perfectly cartoony, while the Batboat is super sleek. The Batcave itself is not my favorite Batcave, but it's a good size. I like all the screens on the computer, and the small suit carousel is nice to have, especially after the small scene in the movie. The carousel is also home to my favorite minifigures from the set. The Raging Bat suit is a particularly great addition, as I'm a big fan of the 1966 series, where the suit originates from. The rest of the minifigures are nothing amazing, at least for me. The Penguin is nice, but there are other cheaper ways to get a Penguin figure from this theme, so he doesn't really stand out as a result. I do, however, really like the inclusion of these little penguins alongside him. They remind me of the ones included in the Penguin set from the original wave of Batman sets. I was always fond of those little guys. Now, it might seem weird to put a simple polybag on such a high pedestal while other objectively better sets miss out, but the Disco Batman Tears of Batman polybag really encapsulates what this theme is for me. A way for us to get unlikely or unexpected things from the Batman license. I think it's safe to say that, outside of this theme, we would never get minifigures like this from a Batman theme. Maybe San Diego Comic-Con or a random movie promo being the exceptions. Are these minifigures particularly amazing? No, not necessarily, but I remember being so excited to get these guys as my gift with purchase that I just had to include them. Plus, getting 2 minifigures out of a superhero polybag was unheard of at the time, and as far as I could find, there's only been 2 polybags since that have done it. So for that alone, these guys were something special. Coming in at number 7 is another questionable choice, but a set that I am fondly attached to. The GCPD pack is nothing spectacular in the grand scheme of things. 2 unnamed officers, a small bat signal, and a lone Chief O'Hara minifigure as the standout. But in spite of all that, I love this small set. Chief O'Hara is a surprisingly good exclusive character, one I was surprised to see appear in the movie, let alone get their own figure. And then the 2 officers highlight something I never really appreciated at the time. These sets actually had some really good designs for GCPD officers. Now, it could be as simple as giving them darker colored uniforms, but unlike some other police officer figures we've gotten in the past, these feel like officers you'd find in Gotham. I wish I could say the same about some more recent figures, but that's a discussion for another video. Now, when I've seen other videos like this, there's always a discussion about whether or not a CMF series should be included, because they're sort of a set, but also not really. At the end of the day, I'm a big minifig guy, and this theme got 2 of them, so I'm gonna talk about them. Each series had their strengths in different places, and for Series 1, it was the villains. 11 of the 20 minifigures were villains, and 9 of them were characters that had never been made in LEGO before. My favorites were definitely Red Hood, Calculator, Eraserhead, and King Tut. On top of all the villains, we also got some really cool alternate Batman costumes. Glam Rock Batman is definitely up there for one of my favorites from the theme. And while like any CMF series, there were definitely a couple of duds for me, the best part is if you don't like some of the figs, you don't have to buy them. At least, that's how it used to be, but again, that's a discussion for another video. Starting off the top 5 is going to be the Batmobile. This one actually ended up being an impulse buy for me, and considering the price and my budget at the time, I'm still kinda surprised I went for it, but I don't regret it at all. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of this design for the Batmobile. It was just so different from everything else that came before it. But now, that's the whole reason I love it. It's surprisingly big, has some really cool posability with the wheels, and has a pretty sleek design. At the end of the day, I still don't really think of it as a Batmobile, but that doesn't take anything away from it. Now, on the minifig side of things, at first glance, this lineup wasn't anything spectacular, but they too needed a second glance. Obviously, Batman is in most of the set, so nothing special. Robin, although not uncommon, was actually a really good addition for me as this was the only one I got. Man-Bat, unfortunately, is the exact same figure from the Man-Bat Attack set, which I had gotten prior. But for those who didn't get that set, I'm sure this was a welcome inclusion. And last but certainly not least are the Kabuki twins. These two were original characters from the animated series titled The Batman from 2004. This series was my introduction to the Caped Crusader, and therefore holds a special place in my heart. And while they were by no means major characters in the series, it's really cool to see them getting some love in LEGO form. From what I've seen online, it seems that the first CMF series was the more well-received one, with the second falling behind. But for me, it's probably the other way around. Sure, I don't really care for Batmerch Batgirl or any of the swimsuit characters, with maybe Joker as the lone exception, but the rest of the series is great. While the first series brought the villains, this series brought the heroes. As I said earlier, I watched Super Friends growing up, so seeing characters like the Wonder Twins, Black Vulcan, and Apache Chief is wonderful. And how is this the only time we've gotten Black Canary? I mean, she's perfect, so we don't really need another, but how has this been the only one? And while the focus was more on the heroes, it doesn't mean the villains were lacking either. Hugo Strange, Clock King, and Dr. Phosphorus are all great figures. This wave also gave a little bit of love to Superman with General Zod and Jor-El. And then the cherry on top of it all were these special stands with Batman logos printed on them. It's a really small detail, but it looks great. While I think I liked the same number of minifigures from this series as the first, I think the stars of this series shine just that little bit more. Starting us off on the podium is a set that I actually almost missed out on, and based on its current asking price, I'm sure glad I didn't. I talked earlier about how the Batmobile was an impulse buy. Well, what I didn't mention was that decision came down to a choice between the Batmobile and this set, Bane Toxic Truck Attack. Now you might ask yourself, well, why did I buy the Batmobile when this one is higher on my list? But the thing is, at the time, these sets were pretty even in my eyes. It was with time that this set slowly overtook the Batmobile. It's very possible this was a result of some buyer's remorse, but however it came to be, this set is here to stay, as I ended up grabbing it off Marketplace a couple years later for only about $10 more than the retail price. Taking a look at the set itself, I think it's pretty safe to say we can just ignore the Batman portion, as this little Batcopter thing isn't much to look at. The true gem from this set is the amazing Big Fig Bane. A lot of people argue this is the best Bane LEGO has or potentially will ever make, and honestly I can't dispute that. Just the fact that most of his details are molded rather than printed makes this fig look amazing. The other big attraction for the set is definitely the truck. It looks like you could drop it into the world of Mad Max and nobody would bat an eye. Same goes for its driver, the Mutant Leader, who is a nice little bonus in this set. And while mine is still sealed in the box, it definitely won't be staying there. Maybe I'll do a little unboxing or something one day. This brings us now to the final two sets. I'm going to talk about these two sets together because, for me, these two have always been a pair. They are the Penguin's Arctic Roller and the Riddler's Riddle Racer. When I got my LEGO catalog, these two were my most wanted sets almost immediately. At $40 Canadian, these sets gave quite a bit. And this is yet another situation where each set's strengths were in opposite areas. Starting off with the Arctic Roller, this set was for the build. This car is sleek, classy, and surprisingly intricate for a set on the smaller side of the theme. Actually, one of my favorite things about this set is that once you remove a couple penguin-themed decorations, it could quite easily pass as a luxury car. Now, unfortunately, while the build is fantastic in my eyes, I can't quite say the same about the minifigures. Not to say that the ones that were included were bad, I actually have no issues with what was included. My issue is with what wasn't included. It would have been really nice to get at least one more minifigure in this set. It didn't have to be anyone big, just another random villain thrown into the mix, or maybe a couple more of those little penguins from the Batcave. Or why not take one of the 5 minifigures from the Riddle Racer and throw them over here? If the Arctic Roller was for the build, then the Riddle Racer is for the figs. A whopping 4 villains alongside Batman packed into this little $40 set. Can you see why I've paired these two together? On their own, they're each lacking something, but luckily, or maybe it was all planned by LEGO, they make up for each other's shortcomings. Riddler, Calendar Man, Magpie, and Kite Man are a great group of figs. Calendar Man in particular is up there as one of my favorite figs from the theme, with his awesome specialized cape. And while the Riddle Racer is nothing spectacular, it's a solid car, more than good enough for a playset of this size. And when you pair these sets together, they become a really cool pseudo set for $80. But which one takes the cake? I've spoken about how I'm a big minifigs guy, so it makes sense to pick the Riddle Racer, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the Arctic Roller. The build is just so strong, and as I said, I don't actually have any issues with the figs included, I just wish there was at least one more. Even back in 2017, this set really stood out to me. At a time where I was really putting my focus on buying minifigs, this set got me to look right past them and focus on a wonderful looking car that I still have on display to this day. Thanks so much for watching this video the whole way through, or even if you just skipped to the end, I hope you enjoyed. I'm just getting started on this channel, so if you would, click the like button down below, I'd greatly appreciate it. Every little bit really does help this early on. It lets the algorithm know that it needs to send more people my way, and at the end of the day, big number makes brain go brr. I can't roll my R's, so I'm not doing that.